Good morning. This is Father Stephen Kelly from St. John's Church in Detroit. We're continuing our series of daily morning meditations where we generally look at one or another lessons that are assigned for morning or evening prayer, what is known as the daily office lectionary. And for Tuesday, I thought we would take a look at a section of the reading that's assigned for evening prayer from St. Matthew's Gospel. We've been working our way through this particular Gospel for several weeks. We're already up to chapter number 22. And I thought we'd go ahead and we would pick up at verse number 34. But when the Pharisees had heard that he had put the Sadducees to silence, they were gathered together. Then one of them, which was a lawyer, asked him a question, tempting him and saying, Master, which is the greatest commandment of the law? Jesus saith unto him, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, and with all thy mind. This is the first and great commandment. And the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself. On these two commandments hang all the law and the prophets. While the Pharisees were gathered together, Jesus asked them, saying, What think ye of Christ? Whose son is he? They said unto him, The son of David. He saith unto him, How then doth David in spirit call him Lord, saying, The Lord said unto my Lord, Sit thou on my right hand till I make thine enemies thy footstool. If David then call him Lord, how is he his son? And no man was able to answer him a word. Neither durst any man from that day forth ask him any more questions. All right, so remember the reading for yesterday, for Monday, was the story about the Sadducees who asked the question about guy marries a woman and then that man dies and all the brothers in sequence marry him, her as well, in accordance with the law, to provide an heir, and eventually she dies. Whose wife is she in heaven? And of course Jesus gives them the teaching about that in heaven we're not given or taken in marriage, that heaven is completely beyond what it is that we at the resurrection can even begin to fathom how wonderful it will be. Marriage will be unnecessary. And hard for us to imagine that. But now the Pharisees are coming in for this kill, and they think we're going to trip him up on matters of the law so then we can discredit him in front of people. And they ask which is the greatest of the commandments. Now, if you start picking and choosing which of the 10 commandments individually are important, that part of the law, then somebody's going to say, well, he said that, this particular commandment, thou shalt love thy father and mother, is the most important. It must be that he's all into covetousness or envying or any of the other laws that he hasn't included as number one. But Jesus goes right to the heart of it by using what is known as the summary of the law. And this is contained also in the book Deuteronomy. It's also contained in the Old Testament. Jesus isn't making something up. He just quotes back to them what is the summary. We hear this all the time, don't we? Because it's a part of every one of our Holy Communion services, right? Hear what our Lord Jesus Christ saith, Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, with all thy soul, with all thy mind. And the second is like unto it, Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself, right? It's a part of every communion service. And of course, we also add to that the 10 Commandments on one Sunday a month. Wonderful glories of the teaching part of the liturgy in the 1928 Book of Common Prayer. And so it is that Jesus sums it all up, that all of the law is important, right? You can't pick and choose which of the laws you think are more important than not. And also it's important because the second one is like unto it, right? In other words, we have to love God and our neighbors. We don't get to say, well, I love God and that's the most important part, and the loving the neighbor part is secondary, right? Loving other human beings is secondary, but I love God. We can't go that way, right? The second is like unto it. In other words, they're on equal footing. Now, we certainly could argue back and forth about, can you really love your neighbor? I mean, really honestly, selflessly, self-sacrificially love your neighbor as yourself if you don't love God, right? So you do need to do that. You can't pick and choose one or the other. And we could almost argue, that you have to really love God in order to really understand how to love your neighbor. I could probably go with that one. But the reality is that we can't pick and choose one or the other. So there that is, folks. So if if you're not good at it, and we all have our moments, if we're not good at it, ask God for the grace to do it, right? If he's commanding us to do it, he will also provide us the means and the opportunity and all the grace necessary to accomplish it, right? If he wants it, he will help us to do it. today's Tuesday. We do have our Holy Communion service today at 12:15 and evening prayer at 5 o'clock. And then the rest of the week we won't have public worship at St. John's because I'm going out of town. I'm actually heading to Philadelphia to row in a rowing regatta, but I will continue these morning meditations and we'll have them on the various channels available each day, even while I'm gone. But I hope that you have a fantastic Tuesday, and may God bless you.